Robert Sheretta, international investor. I heard, well, I think it was Mr. Our second speaker tonight, sorry about the name. You mentioned that we have never faced such a situation before, but we all know that in 1979 there was the Ixtoc, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, oil spill right off of Mexico's coast.
That was, go ahead.
Surely that had just as much in the way of damaging effects. So in the 31 years since then, have we all failed in terms of studying the effects of that spill and also coming up with remedies to try to either prevent these occurrences or at least dealing with them after the fact?
First of all, the Ixtoc spill was not just off the coast, it was in the deep southern Gulf of Mexico, about 50 miles off Carmen. And most of that oil, by virtue of the currents, kept the huge portion of that oil in the deep waters of the southern Gulf. Some of it swept northward into the Texas coast, but not much further than the southern barrier islands. So the U.S. escaped most of that concern. That oil well was only in 160 feet of depth, and there were no deep plumes. There were not nearly as many dispersants. So what I said, I think what we have now is truly a unique oil spill. Certainly there was a huge volume of oil there, approximately 140 million gallons. So have we learned? Well, certainly we learned from that, and again, Exxon Valdez, and there are volumes and volumes out there on the fate of oil and how it affects different ecosystems. What we didn't learn was how to prevent oil spills or how to contain blowouts, and in fact, Pemex, the company, the national company responsible for that particular failure, tried exactly the same things that BP did. They tried a top kill that failed. They tried jamming different kinds of bits and matters into the well. They tried a number of things, most of which failed. They went on for 265 days. And at any rate, it kind of shows the magnitude of the forces that you're dealing with. And if you multiply those risks by putting that blowout at 5,000 feet depth, it just complicates things much more.
Yes, sir.
Harvey Lyford, freelance writer for Professor Trilly. Do you advocate simply letting the Mississippi River find its own way to the sea rather than being channeled through New Orleans?
No, we, since the 1927 flood, which really was a major event in the history of this nation, because we were at that time trying to control the river for navigation, which has been a tremendous asset. The theme and Congress established the fact that the Mississippi River would be used for navigation and for flood control. What we are advocating is for controlled floods. And that is a very different approach to managing the river. And in fact, I would even argue that we can do both flood control and restoration under the same procedures. And what I mean there is that at very strategic points along the river, we would actually insert structures that we have already tested in some locations, such as Carnarvon and Davis Pond. And in fact, I would argue the old river control structure is such a structure that you would, at high river flow times of the year, divert that river into our coastal basins and allow that sand and sediment to rebuild the geologic landscape that we've lost. But can I finish with one key point here? We will not rebuild what we've lost. The footprint that we're talking about in this controlled flood scenario is a footprint that's smaller than what we had in 1865, or even smaller than what we had in 1975, if you will. But we have to learn to live within a footprint that we know will exist for the next 100 years. And that's how we manage our risk, is to know what we're dealing with, where to place people, where to put infrastructure, where we do energy, where we do navigation, where we do fisheries, and all the processing plants that we need, keeping people safe, dealing with the realities of hurricanes, and managing the river so that that footprint is sustainable. It's just as simple as that.